Alrighty, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new review. Today, I'll be talking about how I'm down a little bit over $57,000 trading today. Pretty rough day, coming off two losses off a day which we are on our risk. Um, and so, yeah, coming into the open with my bias, I was bullish, leaning upside. And the reason for that is because we had a 4 hour fair value gap fill, and we also had an hourly fair value gap fill at the low here. I wasn't necessarily looking for price to come down and touch that, but we ended up seeing a 4 hour gap get tapped into, where we then had opposing liquidity sitting up higher. The reason, right, you see me look to trade off and look to long off this 4 hour gap through lower time frame today is because the fact that price was very bullish off the low that we ended up forming, right? We had some SMT formed through ES and NQ off these lows that we put in a higher time frame. Saw a good shift back up, invalidating consecutive PD arrays, and also seeing this 4 hour gap getting tapped into. The only issue with today is price was consolidated, right? We weren't seeing price look to shoot for that draw. I feel like today's a day where we're not necessarily wrong with bias, because if you look at the 4 hour and the hourly, off the charts on NQ and ES, it's not like we've been bearish. It's not like we've been seeing downside. It's just been that price has been very choppy. Got chopped up today. Got a bit trade happy. In terms of today, through a systematical approach, I feel like today is a day where, at best, with my system, I'm gonna break even. And you could be like, Lanto, how the hell you're telling me today your system at best made no money? Yes, there's going to be some days where your system is not going to thrive the best, and that's completely normal, right? The best traders out there, they know how to manage the best. They know how to maximize the best as well. And so today I just did a poor job of managing, right? It's not like I'm down a whole lot, but I took two losers, especially with the second trade easily being avoidable, and we'll get into it. So again, 4 hour gap, hourly gap, wanted to see price tap into, which is what we did. See a push off the gap and then look to trade higher. So coming into the open, there was an initial setup that we had in mind, which I missed. Right after London came down here, this wick right here tapping its hourly and 4 hour gap, right? Hourly and 4 hour gap, just like NQ. After this happened on during London, right as we came down here, sweeping Asia lows and also tapping that 4 hour, I really like the low that we put in. Here's the thing off the open is there was a 5 minute inversion fair value gap, which I had missed right here at 9:35 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We ended up inverting it at 9:50 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Well, Leto, we didn't see a technical opening range move, right? Why would you go long there? Well, ES at this point in time was the leading asset, and if you base off the 5 minute time frame, NQ being the weaker asset, you see NQ come down here and take out its opening range move. So the weaker asset ends up coming back down here, taking opposing sell side liquidity, and then seeing a shift back up. So ES being leading doesn't need to do that. And on top of that, we also created some bullish SMT, right? So the London low here, which did not get tapped, created a higher low, instead created a bullish SMT sequence with NQ. So we ended up seeing price come back up here. And essentially, we ended up seeing price invert this 5 minute gap. In terms of my take off this trade, this is by far the best setup of the day. My take would have been off the candle closure at 9:52 a.m. Got a bit distracted, answering a chat or answering a question in chat while this was happening. So that was on me, totally on me. And we ended up seeing price come up here, trade to London highs, then started seeing price really consolidate. My first entry in the market, I will say, not the worst here, because we've taken these type of continuation trades all the time. We ended up taking a trade in which where we went long. The stop placement, the idea behind the stop placement here specifically was a 5 minute gap fill, I believe. And what we end up more so looking to utilize here was this 5 minute gap tap here, which is also a 5 minute BPR tap. And what we end up doing is we end up deciding to go long off of two 1 minute gaps here. So this is kind of the idea, two 1 minute gaps. This is a bit different to what I end up utilizing. Usually it's just one gap entirely that I use. But being that these gaps weren't the most displacive, I like the fact that this gap right here took liquidity and these two gaps combined were displacive. So we took a 1 minute gap tap and we ended up taking an entry. The confirmation candle was at 10:06 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you look at the executions off the trade, right, in hindsight, obviously, looks like we took at a pretty tough spot right here. There it was. My fill was a bit better on TPT and personal. around here, and took Lucid around here. There was our fill. Again, stop placement was off that 5-minute fair value gap fill. We ended up seeing price initially retrace, come back up, but then it essentially consolidate and eventually just chop into stop. That's essentially what happened here. So essentially seek and destroy. That's what price was with today. Again, at best today, I feel today's a break-even day, because if you're asking me, even with this trade right here, the best entry of the day through our model, this trade's a break-even trade, right? With how we end up executing trades like this, and if you've seen the previous reviews, you know typically these London highs would be an area of interest to go break even, especially if our stop was based off the swing low. Then we would look for this, say this 4-hour gap fill as take profit 1. So this trade at best would have been break even. So this trade here, I'm not going to be too upset about, like I said, because coming into this trade, right? I don't know why the R stick is there, but coming into this trade wasn't bad, right? In hindsight, if you mitigate this right here and you just look at price up until the point of entry, price up until the point of entry looks good. We see a retrace after taking out London highs. We then see price rebalance off this gap, and we see price go. This is not a bad trade. This is a trade I take 10 out of 10 times. It just stopped out, right? Price slowed down and wanted to internalize. But the second trade right here specifically, which is the second trade of the day, the final trade I ended up taking for the day was a trade I'm a bit more upset about. I lacked discipline today, and it resulted in a bigger day. I think before the second trade, we were down about $600. This is $680 per account. This trade ended up getting us a bit or over 1K on the day. If you're wondering why I'm down a bit more than usual as well, is because the first trade I ended up taking was a trade where I had a projected entry, and obviously through confirmation off trade number 1, like our projected entry was down here. And we ended up taking up here. So, taking a fill at 7003 when your projected entry is around 5-6 points below, it kind of skews your R, and it also skews your risk, which is why I was down a bit more. Instead of being down $500, which is what my 1R risk is, I was down 680. That's why you see a bit more today. But with this trade here specifically, the intended point of entry was a 1-minute break of structure. It was where we ended up seeing, or where I wanted to see price come up here, break this lower high sequence, and then see price trade further more past, right? That's what I wanted to see. A bit of structure, rebalance, and then send back higher. I will say the technical aspect of this trade wasn't horrible, but recognizing that price has been chopping up until this point in time, I should have been hands off. Right, and totally, and that's totally on me. I should have been hands off. Reason being, you look at the 5-minute time frame. What are we looking at? An internalized session trading within overnight lows and highs, which is, if you guys know me, this is something I'm really against trading, and I took it. And we also end up seeing the 15-minute time frame just be pure chop as well. So you see these time frames look disgustingly horrible. New York just essentially looks like an extension of what overnight price did, which is something you never want. I still take this trade here. Was a little undisciplined today. We come up here. The take was at 12:11 p.m. You end up seeing me take this trade. Boom. We eventually end up getting stopped out of this trade after price initially came back in the money and saw green, but then tailed back down. I did have a tight break-even stop, but even with that tight break-even stop, which I believe was right here, still did not get hit. So, pretty sloppy today in terms of price. And again, totally on me. This is the first day where we've gotten bad price all month, in my opinion, and obviously took a bit of a hit. So nothing crazy. Again, with the accounts, we're still up around $3,000 even after today, taking it slowly. Again, we could very well easily be at payout right now on these accounts had I risked what I usually risk, like what I'm not doing these accounts for the live. But for me, I just want to take it one day at a time, right? I took a pretty decent hit today, minus 2R. But again, we've been very consistent. And so the goal is obviously to continue to build forward, right? We're still up around 3K on these accounts. And so all we need is to continue to follow our system, and we'll see the results continuously building, right? What I will say for today specifically is I just hoped I was a bit better with executions. I don't mind the minus 2R day. This trade kind of annoys me, but I don't mind the day overall. I think execution-wise, had I been a bit more fast with the mental awareness of the execution, I maybe could have de-risked a bit more to where it could have equalized the actual 1R loss, right? So $500 being the 1R loss, this first trade being a $680 loss, that's almost $200 more that I'm losing just by being improperly sized. So that's on me today. Again, it's a rarity, but I like to do these reviews to show you guys that there's still mistakes that traders make no matter at any level. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Minus 2R. Now, all we got to do is move forward with our actions and see how we can more so thrive, right? Or more so bounce back. So actions over words. And yeah, we'll be back here tomorrow and see how we do. I'm going to catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.